Welcome to another episode here at Lighting Bot. As usual, we are being quite efficient these days with multiple streams a week. So this time around, we will be talking about, a little bit about lighting naturally, lighting in animation, movies, stuff like that, but also a little bit of immigration, moving around, language, soft skills, different things. So be ready to ask you questions. Maybe you have a question about moving around the world, looking for work, culture, language barriers. Maybe you have a question about Katana, Unreal, Nuke. Yes, it's a good opportunity to ask you questions. So please let us welcome Charlotte to the stream. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello.
And
Nice to
let me
meet
see.
you.
Can I hear you or did something happen? I cannot hear you suddenly. That's weird. Did we do something? Can anyone else hear it? Agent, can you hear her talk? As Charlotte says, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
No? Is it just my headset that started to turn off maybe? Well, while Charlotte says hello, hello, I will also say hello, hello. And Agent, we can hear her. Okay, you guys can hear her, but I can't hear her. That's weird. That's very weird. Well, I guess we'll figure it out in a second. So my headset is working. All sounds good. That's very interesting. Why can't I hear her? That's unfair. Everyone else can hear her and I can't hear her. That's not fair. That's a very interesting interview and conversation. I can't hear anything she says and I have to just jinx it. Let me see. And out, and I go in and out. We go mute
Uh,
this, and then we go into her. And we check her Mac. Okay.
are
Hey
you
Edwin. Hey
capable?
Paula. Hi Carlos. That's very interesting, Charlotte. I did hear you a minute ago, but suddenly I cannot hear you. That is quite odd for me. I cannot see what's different other than we turned on this intro video. Let's see. Charlotte can be heard by people, but not by me. I can hear stuff. I cut the screen off your screen. Okay. What if you close the share screen, Charlotte? You know, the share screen we tried earlier. Let's see if that has something to do with anything. And just for the simplicity, hey Edwin, nice to see you. I'm doing good. How you doing? And I will risk one thing, Charlotte. If you just talk to the people, casually introduce yourself while I refresh it very quickly.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Charlotte Samoyeu. I'm a French lighting artist. I've been living in Canada for about 4 years now. I've immigrated here because I wanted to work in Canada, which is a very full of opportunity kind of land, especially when it comes to VFX. So this is why I'm here. And I look forward to talk to you about everything I've done here and what I've done in MPC and my studies and stuff like that.
Cool. I can finally hear you as well. I think something just bugged out for some reason. All right. So you have a quick introduction with Charlotte. So Charlotte obviously has quite a bit of experience. She has her own journey. Just a quick acknowledgement of everyone who's watching us. Thank you for tuning in, Agent, Christopher, Edwin, and Sagar. Thank you. And I don't know, there's quite a few watching. So all the lurkers, please share the link. So while we're talking, more people can join and learn and be part of the conversation. And don't forget to like the video as well. So Charlotte, now tell us a little bit about where you started and where you ended up and how was that process? How was that journey so far? If you could introduce us a little bit about that.
Okay. So I started in France, actually. I started with studies in movies, especially in VFX, at a school called Is Art Digital. It's in Paris, but it has also occurred classes here in Montreal. So I decided at some point that I would like to go in Montreal through this opportunity. And I went from my 3 years in Paris studies to 2 years in here to finish my studies. I specialized in movies, and we did actually a little movie using Unreal. We were the first one, and it has been a very interesting experience because this actual experience helped me figure out that I wanted to do lighting, and also made me discover Unreal, which is one of my favorite software ever to do lighting on, or 3D stuff, whatever. I'm really, really happy that it also helped me land a job here in Montreal. So to get that job, it was during COVID. So I went through the Academy of Technicolor. It lasted for about 8 to 10 weeks. And then after that, I received a job offer from MPC, and I worked in MPC as a lighting artist for almost 2 years. And it was a very good experience for me. I feel all grown up thanks to that. We're
Nice. That's very good. I mean, there's a lot we can learn, right, when you do like almost 2 years at the company. So, from
Yes.
what you learned to actually doing something in some of the projects, so what would you say if you were to kind of think about it? What would be some of the unique things you felt or experienced that was interesting learning opportunities working on, say, Pinocchio or Mermaid or something else? What would you say was something you learned outside and then realizing maybe it was more difficult, or maybe it's a different way of doing things, or maybe it was difficult to learn the software, or maybe you were very good at learning the software, but there were other challenges, talk a little bit about that experience of learning and actually doing something.
Okay, so first time I was introduced to Katana, it was during the academy. It was interesting as it was something that we learned as a group. We were about 20 people in this academy, and we had to learn it together. So there was kind of a socialization thing going as well, as we were bonding through a new software. This software is actually not that hard to use. It's mostly nodes after nodes, so like a tree of nodes. So it was interesting to learn that you import things, and then after that you do the texture of those things, and after that you lay out those things, and after that you add the lighting and also the VFX, and finally once everything is done on Katana, you go to Nuke, and we also kind of learned Nuke as well in this academy. So um, right now, I realize it was a very good experience because you get not only to learn hard skills such as Katana and Nuke, but also soft skills because you realize that there are many people that wants to do what you want to do, and you kind of bond over that, which is a great experience. And I wasn't truly expecting to meet that many people in the industry. I know it's like kind of a small world, but not as small as I thought it was. And it was great because the VFX industry can be so helpful, so nice. I would
Okay.
I would definitely recommend that. Yeah.
Um, so there's multiple questions, so we'll try and keep within what you say, but also go a little bit on the side. So in terms of VFX industry, so I read a lot, and other people read quite a bit when it comes to VFX. There's a lot of overtime, not good pay, challenges. How has it been for you working in the VFX industry as a lighting artist? Good, bad? Sometimes you work overtime, but you like it. Just tell us a little bit about your experience.
I would say to describe this experience in a simple word, it would be challenge. Like it's just challenges after challenges. But There can be good challenges, bad challenges, and like the first movie was definitely a big challenge, but I'm happy it turned out okay. So Pinocchio was my first movie, and it's an interesting experience because you have to deal with, of course, the overtime. So it was a first time for me to do that. I discovered working on weekends, but as much as it could sound bad, it's not as bad as it sounds, I would say. Depending on how much of a social life you want to have, it may be bad, but on my side, I was happy working on this movie. That's the first thing. But then after that, you of course have to learn to become more social and to distance yourself from work. But the things that keeps you going, I think, is that you are surrounded by passionate people. So sometimes over time is something that you would do yourself, not even thinking about the industry or the company you're working for, because you are maybe surrounded by a great team. And that's what happened most of the time, because personally I'm very that's one of my friends. Hello,
Yeah,
David.
it's all fun.
Yeah. So one of the things that I get to admit is that sometimes you don't truly even think about the company. You're just thinking about doing a good job, and that's what drives me to do all these hours, because I really like doing a good job. And we were doing some pretty interesting job and shows over there in MPC. So
Okay.
that, yeah, that's what I would say.
So let's make it more complicated for you, but also a little bit simple. So let's talk a little bit more about immigration, okay? Because
Okay.
we have different questions, which I have to look at the phone because it doesn't show up here for some reason, and I will rephrase it to make it a bit easier for you.
Okay.
First, talk about your experience about being abroad and getting work and immigrating. Like, what was your advantage or disadvantage in getting that opportunity? And then I will ask other questions afterwards.
Okay. Okay, so that's actually a big question, because I immigrated here in Montreal in 2019. So it was only a few months before COVID. And COVID led people to be very isolated. And having that experience of getting isolated far away from my family as the first in the first year was a very big challenge. Like the mental state was not completely here, but I managed to do things. Fortunately, I started to make friends before, so it was easier for me actually to deal with these things, because we cannot underestimate the power of friendship, I guess, in this case. So I would recommend, honestly, people, if they want to immigrate anywhere, to not do it alone like I did, because it's easier, it's funnier also to do it with friends. Many of my friends I talked to about this experience had a good experience because they were doing it with friends, or they knew people that were already there. So don't do it alone, especially not before things like COVID, of course. So yeah, it was hard in a way, because yeah, you get to be very isolated, but without the COVID thing, right now I think it would be a better time to actually travel everywhere. So immigration is a challenge. It's a big challenge. It's a big step in your life. Gotta admit to that. But honestly, I would say, despite everything you can go through, it's worth the experience. It's completely worth the experience. You grow so much. there are so many new things you can learn. I kind of bettered my Spanish thanks to that, because there's a big Spanish community, especially in the VFX industry, and it's fun because you bond over food, because you can criticize the food if you want, but you can bond over the language. You can bond over the difference of culture and realize that despite all of that, you all came to the same place to actually work for something that you all love, which is great about this community. But yeah, immigration, incredible.
So when it comes to immigration, what was so you got abroad because you got a job offer ahead of time, or did you have to move and find other ways to move into the country? Because some people, they get a reply for companies saying, "Sorry, you need to be in the country, or you need to have a visa to get work." What was your advantage in this case that allowed you to make this move?
I moved thanks to my school because I did 2 years of studies in here. So it was 2 years of studies and 2 years of work. So I'm happy because I'm at the best of my time thanks to that. But yes, going with school is good. It's great actually, because thanks to that I got an open work permit that allows me to stay 3 years after school. So I get to experience Canada for, well, 5 years at least. And I'm currently applying for permanent residency. So I look forward to stay even longer than that.
Right. So for the viewers who are asking these questions, and I can also uh, point out that student visa studying, even if you find something affordable, it seems to be a very good way to move abroad and
Yeah.
do something. It is obviously hard for some of you. I see different comments on LinkedIn and so on to get access if you are a junior or an intern, and they say you have to be here, and some of you are also saying it's difficult to move because there's little support. I
Mm.
mean, it is quite difficult, but I think anything is possible if you don't expect the company to solve the problem for you, if you learn about the rules and regulation to do stuff. We have a question in general from Edwin. Let's take some questions, at least one. Can you tell us about relocation process, challenges, and logistic? It's an important topic that gets overlooked a lot. Edwin himself has moved from Panama to Spain, I believe, if I remember my conversations. So he also
Mhm.
has his experiences, and I'm sure he has a story too. But what was your story, Charlotte, in terms of relocating and like moving stuff? Did you take everything with you? Did you pack it
Um,
and send it abroad? How was it?
Actually, there are things that I should have packed and sent abroad, but I didn't do that. So what I did was that I took, I think, about 3 suitcases, and I moved with the 3 suitcases thanks to my mom also, who was there to support me. Then I had to find like a roommate situation. I needed to find that quickly because my mom would go away to go back to France, and I would be left here. So I did that, and then after that, I just discovered that it would be better if I live alone. And so, starting from there, I moved into my own place, and I started buying my own furniture, including the fridge and the stove. So it was a long process. It's challenging because it's very expensive. So fortunately, I had my family to support me for that, and I know that trying to get money from the bank to actually get your furniture can lead you to uh, so some pretty big I'm forgetting the word, sorry. Some pretty biggest challenges after that when you start work, because you have to reimburse everything. So fortunately, I had the support for that, and because I knew I had the support for that, that's why I did it. Um, But yeah, the thing is relocating. You have to deal also with the culture shock, and knowing that you can face like very nice roommates or very bad roommates. That's kind of the problem that you can get here. So, so I would say, yeah, for now, it's just having to deal with people, having to deal with the culture. Especially during my years, they had flood, so they lost tons of habitation. So people had to relocate themselves. People that were already in Montreal had to relocate themselves. So we were actually fighting. I moved to Montreal. So yeah, the people were fighting over apartments, so it was way harder to actually find something during that year. So yeah, it's just that either you're lucky or you're not, I would say.
That's cool. I agree with some of the things as well, because you, as I told you before the stream a little bit, I moved from Norway to France to UK, and in UK I moved 3 times. But unlike you, I didn't have help. I had to figure out all on my own, and I think you know France, right? The bureaucracy of the paperwork of moving,
Yeah.
it's it's quite a bit of work, just moving to even in Europe, to be honest. So it's interesting to hear your perspective. I also been like, I haven't committed to it, but I'm also thought about it on and of like, okay, how do I get to Canada, and how do I get a visa if I don't have a job offer? Because the issue with like countries, I say issue, but I mean the thing with most countries like Canada and the UK is there is enough talent
Mm,
in the country normally,
yeah.
so they don't necessarily need to go abroad. And if they do, they, I believe, at least in the US, this other person we were interviewing, like I think it was last year, they were explaining to me that companies, at least in the US, they have limited amount of visa, so they can only use X amount a year that the government gives them to use it on employees to do it. So when you were already there, so did you switch over to a different visa once you were employed, or do you still allowed to use the student one?
So when I finished my studies, I applied for the open work permits. That was kind of implied when you finish your studies in here. Depending on the how many years you study, you get either 1 or 3 years. So I was lucky enough to have 3 years after that. Um, so yeah, I went from the student permit to the open work permit.
So the do you have different experiences before joining MPC, and you were learning and everything, even if it was non-lighting related, I guess? How was it? How was the experience working in smaller companies versus MPC? Because MPC is a little bit bigger than some of the companies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's actually it's a big difference because on a smaller company you have to be able to be more of a generalist, so you have to know how to do modeling, texturing, lighting, VFX, etc. On your own. So fortunately, on some of these company, I was not really doing like big movie stuff. It was mostly like ad company or even small games company. So I got to actually experience the pipeline for movies and also video games. Uh, I cannot say I prefer either of these ones because they have their benefits and they have their cons and pros in
Okay,
everywhere. So yeah.
just because you said that, what are the pros and cons? Tell us. What is your opinion on it?
um, I really like the way we can communicate in different departments for both pipeline, I would say. So, but for video games, I can tell it's very, very different. Like, some people went from for game design and maybe never truly heard about how the artistic part was working, or how the programming part was working. So it's kind of bigger separation, I guess, between departments. Whereas in the movie, well, it's easier to understand how the whole pipeline works, because most of the time you had to go through the whole kind of artistic part. So you had to do a little bit of modeling, texturing, etc. So it's easier, I guess, to understand which part does what when you go into the movie pipeline than in the game pipeline. Also, well, there's the render for movie. You have the farm render, but in video games it's more real time. And I gotta say that cons would be for the movie and the pros would be for the game. But that's my personal opinion. Doesn't mean that you can't do great things in movie. It's just that sometimes with the render farm, you can have a lot of things jammed together and have a lot of errors happening in the morning, which can be quite frustrating. Whereas in the video games, you can see in a more quicker way what's wrong, actually. So yeah,
Okay. So to make it more complicated for you, if you had a project, you had two projects, they're more or less the same in any criteria you have, and you have to pick either game engine or Katana and Nuke workflow. Which one would you pick if you had to pick one? And they're the same artistically, creatively, story wise, even the same stuff, but they're being done in software wise, two different places. Which one would you pick?
So either Unreal or Katana is the. If I simplify the question, it would be that.
Cool. So for people who don't know it, what is Katana?
Ah, okay. So Katana is a software that is mostly used in movies. It's mostly nodes, a tree node, and right there you can get like the whole pipeline of the movie is kind of described to you into the software. You get to see what is being imported at the very beginning of this node tree. Then after that you get to see the job module, but that's how it basically worked for MPC. But you had the module mostly used for the lead artist or maybe supervisor, mostly. So you have all the passes you needed to do for the movie, all the specific stuff that applies to the whole show. Then after that, you go down on the sequence module. On the sequence module node, you have everything related to just one sequence of the movie. So all the specifics related to it. If there's like a specific, for example, lighting that you have to apply for the whole sequence, or if there is something specific that has to be applied for, let's say, the crowd, you will find it there with all the different nodes applied to it. And then finally, you have the shot module. In the shot module, it's like the artist, the junior artist related. So you have everything specified for the shot. If you have to do a little tweaks in the lighting that was previously done in the sequence module. So it's like, yeah, you go down in levels like that. It's pretty, I would say it's relatively easy to do. I know people would argue that Houdini is better. And I just know that at some point, maybe Katana will be replaced by Houdini Solaris, if I'm not completely wrong. And it's just that Houdini Solaris will be a little bit similar the how Katana works. So that's all I know right now because I never got to actually work for Houdini with Houdini Solaris. I just know people that worked with it, but apparently it's pretty similar. But I do look forward to it. I just know that Houdini is much preferred for some people because it's easier apparently to fix some mistakes that were made along the pipeline. Like you can fix everything easily if you understand how it works.
Hmm, okay. So for people who don't know, what's the difference between nuke and katana, and why is it two different things, and what are you using the other one for?
So Katana was mostly used for rendering scene in 3Ds. I would say if I were to simplify it very quickly. Whereas Nuke is more used for compositing. So you re-add all the passes that you've rendered from Katana into one composition, and sometimes lighting and compositing can share the same, and you that's why these two usually work together. So Nuke is kind of a lighting comp software, I would say, but it's it's also nodal, but it's just that Nuke is used for kind of the end game, I would say.
Okay, cool. Um, I noticed there's like different versions of katana and nuke, and let's say you don't have money and you don't want to pirate. Do you know like how would you get started if you don't have the money to pick up nuke and katana or whatever? Do you have any? Would you recommend just going into Unreal or maybe downloading a free version of Houdini, or what would you recommend someone who has little to no money?
Hmm.
I
To
know.
no money, like not even let's say about $60 per month. No, let's say little to no money. I would highly suggest to use um hmm, I would say I think Houdini is still free, but I could be wrong. I don't wanna say something
I
that's
think
not right.
so. I think
But
it's free.
like
Private
so
version
so
anyway.
so I guess you can use Houdini, and I heard also about Blender, which is still free if I'm not wrong as well.
Yeah, it's
um,
free.
yeah, so Blender, especially for the modeling, I heard wonders about Blender when it comes to rigging. Oh yeah, okay. So we can always you can always use Houdini Apprentice. That's where I learned Houdini actually. Um, so I would say you can use that, but so yeah, I think I used
Yeah.
RenderMan. Yeah, I think I
Okay.
used RenderMan for that. But when
Um.
it comes to compositing, I'm sorry, I'm clueless for this one.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I have a question for you. It's an open-ended question. Do you think working in both industry as lighter is possible? Unreal Engine being used mostly for video games. So I guess the question is, do you think? I mean, you are kind of doing some of it, aren't you? So is it possible to be both places? Uh, I mean, you do need to learn different tools, obviously. So there's a lot to learn, obviously, if you do both. So what are your thoughts about that, Charlotte?
I would say it's possible. I've seen some job offer using Unreal Engine for movie pipeline actually, which is why I really wanted to work with Unreal because I know you can get possibilities from both side of these industries. But yeah, maybe it would be used differently, I guess, in video games or movies. But anyways, as long as you have experience, I guess anything is possible. And Unreal is pretty artist friendly, so I think yeah, it could work for both.
So the version of Houdini is free is Apprentice, and Nuke also has a non-commercial license you can use for free with limitation. So there we go, people. Someone looked it up. So you have some choices for those people who were talking about money and prices. I think there's always going to be options. It really comes down to effort. Um, Learning both the lighting artists, I think that's a lot of work. You have to like learn Katana and you can then I don't know, then Unreal Engine of this all of these softwares that can get quite complicated if you really dig deep in them, right?
Yeah.
Um, so which one do you prefer? Which one are you comfortable with? Which one are you confident that you know a lot about, technically speaking?
I would say artistically speaking, I know more, but I'm more comfortable, I would say, with Unreal because I've been working with Unreal for almost 3 years now. And every time I have an issue, I'm like, yeah, the only person that has to fix your issue is you. I mean, me. So, yeah, I would say Unreal, I'm more comfortable with it. So, which is why I really like this software.
Cool. Do we want to have a quick look at your reel, just so you can show some of your work and maybe talk a little bit about the shots? So you can pause in between and talk a little bit about the process and the pipeline for each project. So like approval and storyboarding or whatever you were doing, basically. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I can share.
Okay. There's no sound. So if someone comments, there is no sound. So don't
Yeah,
worry.
that is like I didn't put any music for it because every time it can get mute. So
So talk a little bit about, for example, the scene for the time being.
so do you want me to stop or do you want me to talk about it after the end of the show? Yeah.
You can wait. It's not a very long show reel, so we can watch it, and then you can go back afterwards.
Okay.
While I drink more water.
Okay. Hydration is important, people.
Yeah, we're talking quite a bit. Cool.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna make some stop and explain maybe a few shots from the three shows that we just saw.
Yeah.
So this shot was actually the first shot I ever had on the Little Mermaid. So one of the challenge for it is to actually do not only the first light ray, but also deal with the lightning. So it was like that for all these shots that we see Ariel on top of the boat. So and also we had to add the hair afterwards. So it was basically lighting a bold mermaid for 90% of the time. And then finally we got the hair and everything was supposed to work pretty well with that. But it just was a very interesting challenge because of the lightning rig that I had to do for this shot and the other shots.
Okay.
So moving on, I think, yeah. So the challenge in this one was having to do the lighting that goes through the water, and because there was a yellow light coming from the bottom, so it couldn't affect the skin the same way uh, inside and outside the water, I would say. So that was one particular challenge because we had to deal with the lighting also on the water that was different from the lighting that was happening on the mermaid. So interesting, but it was you had to get a little bit creative to get around these challenges, I would say. So same for this one. This one is also lightning. This one was actually face lighting ring, so having to match the rest of the body with the face, because the face was the face of the actress, and it's just having the body and the face matching together, so it made sense. And I just want to get to my favorite shot. There was a lot of underwater shots, and it made kind of an interesting challenges because it was the only movie where I had to do underwater shots. So it's just that the lighting is different. There's a lot of volumetric because you are underwater. So there's like marine snow and stuff like that happening. So a lot of things that parasites the image. And so my favorite shot is this one because yeah, they would explode into marine snow. Yeah, it was fun because I had to do the lighting also of the explosion, having the lightning happening into the eels, and having them explode after that. And this part was completely FX, but it was fun because that's the thing. Working on those shots can be really fun, and because you get to be so creative. Well, it feels great because I really like the creative part of the Disney shows. Moving on, maybe we can get to yeah. So Pinocchio was my very first interesting challenge because it was my first movie. So I had to deal with lighting, CG characters, the fur, and also lighting, I guess, Geppetto, so Tom Hanks. So that everything fits together. Yeah, the boat as well. So it was interesting because there was like kind of live person having to be lit, and also CG people that had to be lit, but everything had to match together. And also I spent quite some time also dealing with the wind patches that we see on the sea. So that was interesting as well because I was using a tool that was still under development, so everything had to be tested, everything had to be done. So it was big challenges for first show, but it was there to teach me so much things, and I'm really grateful for the tech artists I got to work with for many months to make it happen. um I would say this one was just a long shot, but it was okay because it was just exterior lighting, so it was mostly one directional light and an HDRI. The only big challenge was actually just reflections on the wet bodies, like reflections of the sun uh, everywhere. Let's see. This one was my first shot. We had to deal with the reflection in the water, in the puddle, Also adding a little bit of it's not moss, I forgot the word, but it's just those parts were not there before, then we had to add them. So yeah, it was basically it. The lighting could be very changing, also depending on the shots that we had to deal with, even though it was supposed to be the same sequence. So it was a big challenge. And also this one, it was just dealing with the friction between the two bodies on clothes. um
So there's quite a few things you've been doing. So while we take a break from talking about your reel to break up the concentration of people as well,
okay.
um, um, which work are you most proud of?
Oh, okay. I guess we can skip to the end, because I've worked on Prehistoric Planet and I'm really, really proud of the work I've done there. It was mostly 2 shots, but those 2 shots, I actually validated them in kind of a record time. Like in 2 weeks, I had them valid, final valid, uh, with the lighting. So it was blocking lighting, then after that creative lighting, then after that final lighting. But all of that in 2 weeks is like a small amount of time to validate this kind of
Okay.
lighting. Yeah.
So to give people perspective, how long was this shot, and how long are other shots normally taken? The time spent normally to go through this process.
So how long would it take normally
Yeah, because
to
you
deal
said
with?
2 weeks is fast to do it. So how long did this shot last, like to watch? Because I think people underestimate the amount of work it takes to do even, a couple of seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, right?
Mm.
So how long is the shot? And it took you 2 weeks, which is fast because you validated it. And how long does it normally take you to do something if it doesn't go fast?
Okay. So if you actually have the time, it can take, I think, easily 1 month to validate a shot, because you have to validate the blocking. The blocking can take actually a lot of time, because you have to find the right direction for your key light. And also, maybe sometimes you have to do correction on the HDRI to have the good reflection on all the shadows and stuff like that. So I would say just the blocking can take a lot of time. It can take up to, I've seen it taken up to 3 weeks minimum. Then after that, you have the creative lighting. So you don't touch a lot of your blocking lighting, I would say, but it's just adding a few touch here and there to, I would say, enhance the direction that your lighting is taking to get into the right direction, because sometimes you don't always have all the elements that you need in the scene to light. So blocking is for the main things that you have to light, like for example, this dinosaur is very important for the blocking, because that's the main thing that you have to light. But sometimes if you have, let's just say, trying to find a more complicated scene. Also, okay, let's just pick this one. This one is kind of a long shot. Well, for example, on this one, I also had to lit 2 Pinocchios. So one that was the wooden Pinocchio, and the other one that was the actual real boy Pinocchio. I would say I didn't have maybe all the elements, like all the environment wasn't completely ready, but I just needed to have the main character to be lit first. So that was the block lighting. Then after that, I had to make sure I had the correct shadows, especially for this environment part. So this part was more of the creative lighting part. And after that, the final is like kind of final tech check on your shot. And depending on the other departments, you can also wait a long time to have it completely done. So having just one shot validated, but validated for good, can take like quite sometimes, depending on waiting for other department, depending on change, sudden change on the lighting, because we decide to change the whole sequence lighting and stuff like that. So it can vary to, I don't know, 1 month to many months. I've seen people working on shots for literal months, and they were still like waiting for creative approval, because they couldn't decide, because there's sometimes no agreement between the lead and the CG soup, for example.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of the stream. So now we're gonna go rapid round. Rapid round basically means, in this case, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions that's still on the list from the viewers, plus one last question I have. You have less than a minute to answer it. So the first question is, what does validation shot mean, and how does the process work?
So validating shots, it's just that it means it can get you to the next level. I would say basically, it's like it's good. There's nothing left to touch.
So is it like a feedback round, or is it just yes, no, move it next, move it forward?
Kind of moving forward.
So you don't get any feedback. So if it's not validated, do you
Um,
get feedback, or is it just go back and do more?
well, I'm not sure I understand the question correctly.
So
It's
let's
just,
say let's say you give me this shot that you have open, right? You give
yeah,
it to me. I'm supposed to validate it. I say it's not validated. Do you expect me to give you feedback, like what to improve, what to fix, or
yeah.
do you just go and do it on your own and hope for the best?
Uh, s- sometimes
It
you may not
depends.
have the feedbacks, but or clear feedbacks is what I mean. So yeah, most of the time you will have feedbacks as to why it's not validated. But yes, like most of the time, it's like you have feedbacks and you have to redo retweaks of a few things. Yeah.
Okay. Next question, which he didn't specify, so we're just gonna make it a open-ended, casual question.
Okay.
What is your favorite? What is your favorite show?
This my favorite show is a
David probably knows though.
yeah, he knows the answer. It's just that my favorite show was the last show I worked on, and that David was also working with me on this show. So I cannot really talk about it because it's not out yet, but it's gonna be a very cool show. Like I really enjoy working on it.
Yeah, it's a hush hush, everyone. I can't talk about it, but thank you for asking. Next, next question. Um, what is your perspective slash opinion on working in a proper pipeline slash streamline process versus working like a generalist where everything is like mixed together? Interesting question.
Ooh, it is very interesting. Thank you for that. I would say I kind of really enjoyed working on this proper pipeline, because having not everything mixed up. Well, sometimes it's good to know that you can fix everything on your own, but most of the time, having to focus on one point in general, well, it can help you to, I would say, get everything to its best level. So because sometimes you can lack of knowledge in texture, stuff like that, because you prefer to do this and that. So having to go full on your specialization is the thing I enjoyed the most. Yep.
Okay. Next question. What would you recommend to add for your demo reel? Is it better if I can include breakdowns of the shots? So what is your recommendation so far?
Actually, yeah, having breakdowns of the shot can be good, but it's just that I would say it work more for personal work, though I've seen actual movie shot getting breakdowns. Like it's always interesting. Like this, it's it's a good thing to do. I would recommend to add breakdowns. Yeah.
Okay. Before we continue with some more questions, this is just your innocent reminder for everyone else while I have your attention. Do remember we have more stuff to do next week and the week after. We have game dev education, art fundamental talk. We have portfolio review, so you can go to Discord and you can submit, and we'll give you some feedback and help on that. And we also have understanding other department as lighting artists, so communication and soft skill. There's two more so I haven't added yet to the stream link, so be sure there's quite a bit more. And obviously, you can join Discord and join lighting challenges. We have it monthly. It's a fun way of helping each other out, improving. So if you're on a job hunt, it's a good way to get highlighted. We have on average 5 people who get work just because of the lighting challenges. So I do recommend trying that out too. So next question. Does a lighting artist in film ever get to be part of the pre-production process, or is it strictly post-production where you receive the footage after everything is done?
I would say it depends on if you are or not a CG soup that was previously a lighting artist. So I guess no, you don't really get to be part of the pre-production. It's more like you are there as a consultant, but you are already at least a CG supervisor.
Okay. Now, not to put you on the spot, but if you were to give 3 advice, and it could be any advice that you think is valuable to pass on to someone who does lighting, student, junior, Unreal, Katana, it could be anything. What are the 3 things you can think of?
Mm,
We can
don't underestimate the state of your mental health. First, make it first. Second of all, uh, do not be afraid to fail. Like failure is part of learning things. So even if you're not doing a good job right away, you're here also to learn. So mistakes can be good actually. And finally, I would say make friends with people. It's important to develop your soft skills when it comes to validation of the world of the industry, because it helps you make connection, and you never know, maybe the guy you're working with on this or that movie can help you land your future job in another company. So yeah.
we. Uh, last question from
Yeah.
me before we probably have a private conversation, and before I let you go back to your real life and whatnot. Um, have you had any experience? Could be positive, or it could be challenging experience as a woman in the industry, because we are still quite male dominated in terms of both games and the movies and the VFX. How has your experience been? Is there anything you want to talk about as an ending statement or message, or good message? Could be a serious message, anything you like.
I have actually a good experience to share about that. When I had my contract ending for MPC, I had so many male coworkers, I guess, fighting for me to stay. It felt incredibly good. Like I wasn't actually completely sure of everything that I was able to do, but having so many like male supervisor or lead, or well, people that were above my level, I would say, fighting for me to stay because I was doing such a good job and I was respected because I was a good lighting artist, and it was regardless of my gender. Uh, it feels good because I knew that it could happen, but I didn't know that it would happen to me, and it felt great. And
Good.
yeah,
So, I mean, we have interviewed a few women now, and I'm still looking for dirt. But everyone that have been on my stream has had positive experience. So I like to think we're on a good track at least, or
yeah.
maybe I'm just surrounded with good people, so they just have positive things to say. But yeah, again, thank you, Charlotte, for attending. We will talk a little bit in private in a few seconds. But thank you again for sharing your journey and your advice and your tips. And everyone watching, please say thank you as well. As usual, like, subscribe, click that bell button. We have more stuff coming, and join Discord, hang out.
Mm.
Maybe I don't know if Charles is in my Discord, but she's happy to join as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we are gonna end this stream now, and we are gonna see you again soon. So thank you guys for watching, and have a lovely, lovely weekend. Yeah, there's a weekend. And play some games. I'm gonna play Cross Out because I spent a bit money on cars, which ended up being useless. So now I have to spend time playing it because I spent money. Stupid me. So, so see you guys around. Bye bye.